What is going on, everybody? Vex30 here, coming with a new video, and today we are finally dropping the tier list. I know, I promised it a few weeks ago, and there's a new patch coming pretty soon, but I got busy. I was kind of like, I don't know how to explain it. I wouldn't say burnt out of videos, but I was kind of getting a little bit burnt out. I've been streaming a lot over on the Twitch channel Vex30. We've been grinding for partnership, and that has hurt my YouTube content a little bit because we've been playing so much, playing so often, playing on different accounts, playing with different people. So that's why this didn't come out sooner. So yeah. Sorry, but we finally have it. Plus, the low elo tier list is going to be dropped later this week as well. That one, though, seriously has some issues because that's hard to make. That video was much harder to make than I thought it was going to or is going to. I still haven't fully fleshed out the tier list. It's something that I've slowly worked on and I thought about while I play. And I've been playing on an alt account as well to start thinking about what characters do help in this tier. So I haven't just been smurfing on my alt account with Cora. It's more of a good practice for me to help lower elo players and give them more advice and just see what's going on at the lower elos, which is like right now we've been playing at like platter diamonds. So without further ado, that's the intro. This is the tier list. So with tier lists, like I always say, this is my opinion. I've been playing ranked a crap ton. I've been Grandmaster most of the season so far. We got it super fast by just playing supports. So take my opinion how you will. I used to be a former professional player, and leave your comments down below and feedback just so everybody knows. As I do this tier list, there is a high probability that a few champions by the end will be changed from where I initially put them. Right now, I'm looking at my second monitor, right? You'll see me do this a lot. I'm looking at the tier list that I made initially, and there might be some changes as we go along. So I have initial set out, but by the end, we should have a fully fleshed out final tier list. So without further ado, let's honestly just jump right into it because this is going to be a long one. Androxus, we'll start alphabetical because, you know, that's how tier lists work. Androxus, solid character. You can be picking him anytime. We're going to put him right there in the middle at C. He's not weak. He's not strong. He can be picked and played well. And he's honestly just a overall good character. Just so everybody knows, I don't have any specific correlations with the letters and how champions are and like what it means specifically. All I really can say is C is well balanced and S is pretty overpowered and needs to be banned every game. So just keep that in mind. Androxus, C, good character, can be played anytime. Ashe, we're going to go ahead and put at B tier. She's actually a very strong off support or off tank. Off tanks are, tanks in general are strong right now. Reason being, I'm not actually sure. There's not a specific reason outside of tanks are supposed to be strong. They're supposed to control the game, and they're being banned a lot and ranked at higher elos. So we're going to put her at B just because tanks feel really good right now. Atlas, very strong pick. Very tempting. This is the one pick that I'm thinking about possibly taking and pushing up one later in the tier list. But right now he's at A. I find myself banning him every match. I find him being banned every match besides a few. That's why I'm tempted to put him S, but Atlas very strong off tank still. Though he got nerfed, it put him a little bit more in line. That's really it. Barrick. We've seen a surge of Barrick. Barracks are actually being banned now and played every single game. Barrick does great against Denara, does great against Terminus, does pretty well against Fernando. I think he does better against Fernando than a lot of people think, but it does require you to get wrecker and caught, so that's why it's not as good. Barrick actually is going in A tier. We've seen a surge in Barrick recently, and I think it's well deserved. Barrick is a very strong character. People are playing a lot of Fortify, not so much Forge Fire. I feel like Forge Fire is a little bit of a bait after talking to a few people. I think you're sticking with Tinkerin and Fortify, mainly Fortify right now. Bomb King, we're going to go ahead and put at C tier. I think Bomb King is okay right now. I was close to putting him at D, but there's certain maps like Bright Marsh, Ice Mines where he really does excel, and especially in the right hands. So Bomb King C, you can play him. It's not really a throw pick, but if you're playing him on like a, let's just say Frozen Guard or Timber Mill, you're kind of throwing. Buck, with the flankers currently in the meta like Vora, Vatu, Buck kind of just gets outshined currently, but I still think you can pick Buck and do decently, but there are better flanker options. Now, I don't think Buck is the throw pick, so we're going to put him at C. I think he's pretty balanced right now, and this is one thing you'll notice about this whole tier list. I think the meta is actually really good, and the balance is great right now in the game. So Don't think I'm just being lazy putting a lot of stuff to C, but I think there's a lot of stuff balanced and usable right now. Cassie. We're going to go ahead and put Cassie at balanced at C tier because she is just the go-to damage dealer. When a certain character with white hair, silver hair is not in the game, let's just say banned because she's banned a lot, or picked, you're usually looking for a Cassie or a Shaw. She's at C. She's solid. She's always been solid. Actually, there was a meta where she wasn't, but she's always been a solid character. Corvus, you know, everyone who watches this channel knows my opinions on Corvus. I understand a lot of people at lower elos think he's amazing, but at higher tiers, he really is not that good. And Corvus is definitely something I'll be addressing in my lower tier lower elo tier list for supports. But Corvus is D. I don't think he's a very strong support. I think there's a lot of other supports better than him currently, but I do think he's usable and viable at lower elos, and it helps a ton for your flankers who don't know how to come back and reset for heals, where you can heal them anywhere on the map. So I definitely get it, and that's why he's D tier rather than E or F. Dredge. Okay, so Dredge is a weird one because I've seen Surge and Harpoon Dredge recently with the sustain, and it's been doing decently, but I really haven't seen it carry games. I do think it can be played, but I do think it's a little bit of a throw pick. So we're going to put it at D. I think there are better picks than Dredge currently, but he can be played and used. Are you going to win every game with him? Probably not. Are you going to win a lot of games? Probably not. Are you going to win some games? Probably. So I don't know. That's why he's D rather than C, just because I feel like every time I've seen him, it's just been, yes, the Dredge seems like they're doing a lot because they do a lot of damage, but they have really no kill potential. They just do a lot of poke. Drogos. My last tier list, honestly, I put Drogos way too low. I think Drogos is solid, especially in the right hands. You know, someone like Infernal Drogos, so you put Drogos on them and they just pop off every single game, right? So Drogos at C, I think Drogos is better than I gave him credit for before. And he plays a lot better than I thought. And into certain comps on certain maps, with Worm Jets, maybe Fusillade, I mean, he can really pop off. If you're playing against a team who has no hit scan, which hit scan is point and click like Leanne and Androxus, you point and click, you hit. Without a team with no hit scan, Drogos can actually pop off. Evie. I actually haven't seen a lot of Evies lately, though I still think she is a solid character. I just think she is higher skill cap, and a lot of people don't play her because of that, and they don't practice her, and they're not very good with her because of that, because she is higher skill cap. I want to put her at C, and that's where we're going to put her for now, just because me knowing Evie, rather than, I haven't seen a lot of her, just because I haven't seen a lot of her doesn't mean she isn't balanced and good right now. So I think you pick Evie, you're good Evie, you're fine. Fernando, this is the one we need to talk about. He is going all the way in S tier. Fernando is very strong right now with his rechargeable shield. Aegis is a strong pick currently in the meta. You know, Wrecker with the Wrecker nerfs before, even though it got buffed, it still hasn't helped much. There isn't much on point that has to counter him outside of Barrick. I think Barrick does a decent job, but again, he has to buy a lot of cards to counter Fernando, and it takes a while to come online as a Barrick versus a Fernando. So that's why Fernando is S. He's banned in almost every single rank game at higher elos right now. He is not allowed to be through, and I totally understand why. The guy is kind of just OP. It is hard. You have to be full press. Your team has to be full press against him, fighting him on point with wreckers, with your other point tank, with your point tank to counter him. Outside of that, you have to get a Barrick with wrecker and caught to counter Fernando, which is just a tough game and takes a while to come online, like I said before. So Fernando S is banned a lot, is picked a lot if he's allowed through, and a lot of the times he isn't allowed through. So next on the list is Furia. I actually think Furia is seeing a resurgence right now. I'm not going to take credit for it, but I feel like I didn't see any Cherished Furias, and then I tested her for a few days, made a video on her, and I'm starting to see more Cherished Furias. Hopefully that's the reason. I like creating metas, so I hope I had a part in that, and if I didn't, you know, it's okay. But Cherished Furia is actually really good right now, and I want to do a video on her explaining why, but I'm not going to do a full explanation here. Argue with me if you want, but I know this is true. Furia is actually the best late game healer in the game because of her ultimate. Every other ultimate run supports get countered, while Furia's don't late game. Plus, she brings the damage Late game, healing is irrelevant due to caught most of the time unless people get out of combat, and Furia has that frag potential to kill people rather before they kill your teammates. So Furia being the best late game support in the game, I'm going to put her C. I hopefully keep seeing a resurgence of Furia. I hope so, and we'll see. Grok. Grok got some hard nerfs. His card is still bugged. He's not getting bonus healing from the last thing I know. Could have got fixed, and I'm just being debated. But Grok is not very good currently. I don't think you ever play him. I think maybe with Maelstrom, there's a few instances where it does get value. I played against a single uno Maelstrom Grok that was decent, and that was Alex. I think him and Nausea are the best right now on the ranked leaderboard, and that was on Bright Marsh. One time. He's at E tier. Sorry. Grover. Okay, Grover's one of those champions that I hate playing against, and I actually found myself not liking to play anymore. Deep Roots is kind of just getting old. It's really freaking good. It is powerful, but it's just annoying, man. Like, it is so good and so powerful that it's just kind of getting boring. So I'm playing Rampant Blooming, but I don't know if Grover's really worth a ban anymore, even though he's annoying. We're gonna put him at B tier. He is a solid second support, or a solid support, and you should be playing a Grover or like a Damba every single game, most of the times. And even with Rampant Blooming, if you don't want to play Deep Roots, you can. I've been testing Rampant Blooming, and it is actually viable still. If Deep Roots gets nerfed, I don't think Grover really moves out of B tier because of his damage and utility plus ultimate, everything combined. I think he's still a super strong support. Amani. Oh my goodness, Amani. I've seen some good Amanis, and I've seen some Amanis wreck the house, but I'm not really seeing a lot of her right now. I'm not seeing very many good Amanis, so we're going to go ahead and put her at D tier. Not very strong. Strong ultimate overall. People forgetting about Bulldozer against her ultimate, but her damage is a bit lackluster IMO, and she doesn't really bring much in utility outside of her big Frost Root Bomb. Inara, C tier. Solid point take. Kind of gets shit on by Barrick. Kind of does decently against Term kind of does decently, but it's about an even trade. Doesn't do well against Fernando. She's a solid point tank. She feels a bit underwhelming currently, but she's okay. Io is, I think, stronger than giving credit for. I keep saying I'm going to test her on stream and spend a day with her, but I kind of haven't yet, just because I'm undecided on my opinions on her. So I really should have given her a test before doing this full tier list, but right now I'm going to put her at D tier. Now, I don't exactly want to put her with Corvus, because I don't think she's at the same level as Corvus, but I think she's a little bit better. I think she's probably C tier. And I think actually for now, we're going to put her at C tier because I do think she is better than Corvus right now. And I think she's okay, but not played a lot. We'll see, though. It's something I need to test, and I will do a video on as soon as I test it and know fully. Jenos, I think Jenos had a surge at the beginning because people were excited and then kind of fell off. Again, I think Jenos is only viable on Timbermill and Jaguar Falls with Luminary, and I do think Luminary is good, but a lot of teams forget how to play with it. You have to spend a decent bit of time out of combat with the Jenos to slowly heal yourself up, and they're used to the instant gratification healing that Saris brings, Damba brings, Grovery brings. So I do think Jenos is still viable and good, so we're going to put him C tier, but a lot of people forgot how to play with him, and as a support, it's kind of tough watching people just stand there in combat thinking they're going to get burst healed. Khan. Another strong off tank. Again, off tanks are just strong in the meta. B tier, right with Ashe. I think he is strong. You're picking Ashe, Khan, or Makoa as your off tank 95% of the time, unless you have an insane Ruckus player, unless a ROM is super free and they don't have any counters. The same thing with Yag. All three of those champions are super strong right now in the meta and should be picked as your off tank most games. Canessa. Not super situational, but maps like Bazaar, Fish Market, Timbermill can all be played with Canessa. Canessa is actually getting banned a lot on Fish Market and Bazaar because how powerful she can be. So we're going to go ahead and put her at C tier, even though she's really situational. She's still really balanced and she has her moments. Koga. Koga got some buffs. I saw Rock Monkey trying to make Koga work and says Koga's OP, and I still have yet to see it. So we're going to go ahead and put Koga at E. I think he's dog. Okay, spicy time. Lex. I think Lex is sleeper. I think Death Hastens Lex is very, very good. Very good. Very good. But he's not being played a lot, and a lot of people haven't really seen it yet. I think his poke is insane with it, and I think his kill potential and his dive potential when he needs to is insane. So I think Lex is sleeper, and this is my spicy pick. I'm going to put him at C rather than lower. Even though you really don't see a lot of Lexes, that's okay with me. I think he's sleeper, and I think he should be tried more, especially with Death Hastens. Death Hastens brings insane poke, insane kill potential with his dash in, and you need to run a shoot equals dash reset build. You can look up one of my builds. It's called Test. It's what I've been playing. It's super nice. Try it out. Try Death Hastens Lex. Let me know what you think about it. Leanne. She just needs her card nerfed. Okay, so I think Leanne is actually not as OP as people think. I think she is Resident Sleeper with Alacrity and does just a crap ton of damage and is super annoying, but I think all she needs nerfed is her card that resets her dash when she hits her right click. If that card gets nerfed to the ground, Leanne is way back, way more in line with other damage champions, but for now, she's going to go A tier. Alacrity is just strong, man. Maeve, balanced, does well, has good matchups, has bad matchups, can be played at a decent level. I think she's actually worse than Androxus, though. I think Maeve is a bit of a struggle bus to play currently. I think her damage is a bit underwhelming. But I still think you can play her and do well with her. We were playing her on our alt account, and I still think she feels kind of strong. Even though her damage feels a bit lackluster, her mobility and the things she can do is great. Makoa. So I was in between Makoa, C or B tier, but we're going to go ahead and put him at B tier. Initially had him at C, but I do think he is very strong currently. Again, I think a lot of the tanks are strong, so maybe tank bias, who knows. But Makoa is strong, right there with Ashe and Khan. You're picking Makoa most of the time. Khan and Ashe are seeing bans during the mid-draft bans, so you're picking Makoa a lot. I even see Makoa bans, to be honest. So it just depends on what their comp is, what your comp is, depending on which off-tank you take. Damba. Damba's right there with Makoa at B tier. I think him and Grover are the best two supports currently in the game at higher elos. They are very strong. They bring a lot to the team. Damba brings a ton to the team. I can go on for days talking about Damba, but I'm not going to. He's B tier. Solid pick. You're picking him most of the times as a support. Is very strong currently in the meta. Moji, I don't want to talk about Moji. E tier. I think she got some buffs. She's slowly been receiving buffs, but it's not enough, and it's not good enough. She's just not very good. Pip. Balanced. Can be played Combat Medic, Mega Potion. I found some times to play Mega Potion off support actually brings a lot of damage and utility to the team. It's pretty cool, but I don't think he's very good. I think he is very good because he does have that flexibility to play Mega Pot, Catalyst, or Combat Medic. Even though you haven't seen a lot of Catalysts or Mega Pots and you've seen a lot more Combat Medics, I think he's pretty balanced champion right now and does a decent bit. Big red Barney Rom. Okay, so Rom, I think is situational, and depending on their team comp, if you pick Rom, if they have counters like Tyra, yada, 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 Vora does decently against Rom just because they're percent health. Rom, because of that reason, he's super situational, not that good. We're going to go ahead and put him at D tier. I don't think he's very strong, and how situational he is, it just kind of makes him meh. Ruckus. So Ruckus is one of those champions that I want to put D tier, maybe even E. No, not E tier. Maybe D tier. Because Ruckus is highly dependent on the champion, the player that is playing the champion. Ruckus can be the most broken off tank in the game when paired with a proper player who knows how to play him and paired with a flank who knows how to play around a Ruckus. Ruckus can be insane, but it depends on the player. And due to that reason, we're going to go ahead and put him C rather than D because he can be insane on the right hand and people who are practiced with Ruckus. Saris, we've seen a surge of Saris bans in the mid-draft because she is annoying to play against. She puts out a lot of HPS in early game. That stops a lot of kills. She can save a lot of people early game, but late game, she is completely useless unless somebody sits out a caught for a little while, and a lot of players don't know how to do that because they just want to keep fighting combat. So, Saris, I think she is actually pretty decent right now. We're going to put her at C tier. I think she does decently, and her HPS is just annoying to play against. And you're seeing her banned a decent bit at mid-draft, which is interesting. Okay, so another spicy take for me. I think Shaolin is B tier rather than C tier. I think he is a very strong pick right now against a lot of the flankers in the meta like Vora. like Vatu, if you can hit your cripple. So it does rely on a decent Sha, but I think he is super strong. His burst he brings is insane with the 300 burst on the right click. 1300 plus another shot is 2300 damage, or 1300 plus insta Q. You can blow somebody up instantly. You shoot right click Q on a Vora who is diving you, and she dies. You know, she can immune some of the damage, but not all of it, and you just stick your planted. Ja, I actually think is B tier rather than C tier. Again, this is a spicy one, but I really do believe it. Just like the Lex one, I really do believe he is really good right now and should be picked more. Skye, I've seen a couple of good Skies. I've seen Skye being used, but I still don't think she's that good. I don't think she's C tier. I think she's D tier, but there are times where you can pick Skye and it be super viable. Strix, same thing with Strix. Maps like Timbermill, specifically Timbermill. I don't know any other maps where he's been played, but if you're playing against Canessa, you can still justify picking a Strix, though he's not very good and very susceptible to flanks now. We're going to go ahead and also put him at D tier. Has no mobility, has not enough damage to keep himself alive, and probably needs to be retuned and increased a little bit on the damage or something, because right now he doesn't feel great. Talus, I want to put Dallas at D tier, but I can also justify him at C tier. I've seen a lot of good Taluses out there wreck games outside of one cheater I played against. That was obviously he wrecked the game, but I don't know. I don't think Talus is that good. I'm going to put him at D tier. At higher elos, Talus does not perform well, and against good players, kind of gets countered out. Terminus, pretty balanced champion, again, with the point tanks. A lot of point tanks are similar right now, like Inara, a lot of point tanks. All point tanks are viable. Fernando, Inara, Barrick, Terminus. Terminus does well against Inara, doesn't do great against Barrick, does not do great against Fernando. So we're going to put him at C tier. He's pretty balanced right now. His ultimate's still annoying as ever, but yeah, that's just Terminus ulti. Tiberius, after the nerfs, feels way more in line than he used to be. Thank God. So we're going to go ahead and put him at balance. The nerfs were really good for Tiberius and really brought him in line with other damage dealers, and is a solid pick if you're not going to want to pick a Cassie, not going to pick a Shaolin. If you don't want to pick any of those, Leanne, go ahead and pick Tiberius. You can still play him and do well with him. Torvald. I've seen like one good Torvald game and got wrecked by one Torvald. Besides that, I haven't seen any good Torvalds. You need a lot of communication, and you need a good Torvald player who knows how to position around their flanker, and you need a good flanker who knows how to position around their Torvald. So because of all those requirements, he's going D tier. I don't think he's very good, and he's very, very dependent on the player, and the player you're playing with, you're pocketing. Tyra, now, I think Tyra is decent currently. I think Mercy Kill is actually better than given credit for. That 25% DR is kind of insane. The amount of times that I've almost killed a Tyra but haven't is actually insane. It's insane. Like, the DR is crazy. Even though Bird Monster is strong, I think the DR is better than given credit for. We're going to put her at C tier. She is balanced. She can play Burn Monster or Mercy Kill and be super, super viable. So, Victor, I was in between D and C. Okay, so let's just address the next two together since they do a similar thing. Victor and Vivian, both I'm right between D and C, but I think one is deserving a C, one deserving a D. I think Victor is deserving a C because he can still bring that long range poke damage, stay alive, lifesteal, grenade damage, has a lot to survive and do a ton of damage at range, while Vivian has to be a bit closer. Now, she can sit at range, she does have her shield, but I think Victor just does a better job than Vivian at that role. So, Victor C, Vivian D. Willow, I thought we were going to see a resurgence of Willow, and I started to see it at the beginning of this ranked tier, but it has fallen off majorly. But I still think she's decent, and she's deserving of a look by players. I don't think she's that bad. I think she is pretty solid overall. And it's something actually I might test on my alt, play a decent bit of Willow and try her out and see how viable she is. Same thing as with these lower tier picks like Amani, Dredge. I want to start doing that on my alt account, playing these champions at lower tiers so I don't throw games at higher ranks. But I'm not throwing games because like I can play any champion do decently. But I think Willow is solid. We're putting her C tier. Enough rambling. Ying. Very viable support, very strong, can be strong in the right hands with the right team. Yada, yada, yada. You've heard this spiel before. Ying is C. She's balanced. She can be played. She's not a throw pick. Solid champion. Xin. I don't like Xin right now. I think his build feels awful. And I don't like playing him. But I do think I've seen a couple of good Zins. And Xin can be played pretty decently. We're going to throw him at balanced. I don't think he's bad, but I don't also think he's, I don't know. I think there's better picks. I don't know if it's actually Androxus. C is very fitting for Zen right now. Vora now, on the other hand, is very strong. Vora is a extremely meta pick right now as a flanker. High sustain, really good damage, great immunity. Ultimate can save her butt. So many times does it save her. We're putting her at B tier. You're seeing a lot of Vora bans currently too. She is just not that viable overall. Wait, sorry. She is very... We're getting towards the end of the tier list where my brain just starts fucking pulsing like so much information overload. Because when you do big tier lists like this, you're thinking about a lot, right? But yeah, she's very viable. She can play against a lot of comps. Again, I think the only counter to her right now is Sha. A lot of flankers actually lose the duel to Vora from what I've seen. From when I've played Maeve and Androxus, I played a buck game against her. I lose the duel against Vora almost every single time because the Vora damage, immunity, self-sustain, all that, the cripple, oh my goodness, it is so strong. Vora's going B tier. She's a very strong flanker in the meta currently. Yagharoth. Now, I think Yag and Red Guy right here are very similar because I ranted about this on my stream yesterday, and let me give you a quick rundown. I think both are terrible for the game because of their design forces people to pick champions to counter them, and that's not what Paladins is. That's what Overwatch is. You have to pick specific champions that counters other specific champions. Paladins has avoided that until they introduced these two. I think Yag is terrible for the game, and I hate Yag with a passion. But if teams are not picking counters to Yag, she is actually broken, and she can do so much in a game when you don't. She has nothing to contest her, so she's gonna go C tier. Please remove Yag. Octavia. I've seen one good Octavia in ranked who's done well, and besides that, she's not being played much. She's not being tried much, so we're gonna go ahead and put her at D tier. I don't think she's that good, and she's not being played a lot. So if she's not being played a lot, then it's not really worth taking a look at her and putting her higher in the list, honestly. Vatu. Now, I think Vatu is going to get nerfed. Do I think he should be? No. I think Vatu is actually super great for the game. Bringing back the old mobility that some of you might know, might not know. And people forgot how to play against flankers because they haven't in a while. They played against double support. They've played that slow style, and they are not used to playing against stuff like Vatu, high mobility, Evies, so on and so forth. So I think Vatu is a very strong character and is seeing a lot of bans because he carries ranked games because people don't know how to play against him or forgot how to. We're going to go ahead and put him at B tier. I don't think he's any higher. You're seeing him banned a decent bit, played a decent bit scary. Close to A tier though, close to going here, but I don't think he's extremely overpowered. I think it's mainly comes down to players just not playing well against flankers. Gotta give it to you, honestly. And then Ray, not in ranked right now, so I can't really place her, though I don't think she'd be placed very high right now. She's gonna need some buffs in the next coming patch to make her viable. But that is it. That is the tier list. Let me take a look through this and let's talk about it. So I think overall, C tier, the game is very balanced right now. As you can see, there's a lot of champions here where I think can be played and not be a throw pick. Now D tier, a bit of a throw pick when you pick these champions. That's kind of how I base my tier lists. Not a throw pick. You're helping your team majorly. You're winning the game. You're just winning. You're throwing D tier and then you're extra throwing at E tier. That's kind of how I see my tier list. Like, are you throwing or not throwing? Now, I don't think any of the champions, like, if you pick them, you're kind of throwing. But, I mean, you could still play them, right? But you're still kind of throwing because there's better picks. But, yeah, the game is a very good state right now. You're not seeing a lot of champions way up here where they need to be overly nerfed. I think Nando and Lien definitely need nerfs. Outside of that, I don't think you need to see many nerfs. I think Grok needs a slight buff. All these champions down here might need to see slight buffs. Especially E tier, they do need to see slight buffs. D tier, meh, some of these do, some of these don't. I think Corvus needs a buff to his ultimate probably, or his something. I think his ultimate in particular, because his ultimate feels kind of bad. Maybe increase the damage, make it come out faster. I don't know. But that is the tier list. Looking through this, I don't see anything else I want to change. This is the final Vex 30 tier list for this patch, or for probably maybe the next patch too, depending on how many changes there are. We might actually, we're going to go ahead and save this, and maybe for the next tier list, just do an update, because I don't think it's going to be a huge patch. We're adding a new champion, Sadie, that was just announced today, though it's been teased. New champion Sadie is coming out soon. So I don't think this is going to be a massive patch, but if it is, we will redo the tier list at some point soon. Besides that, we'll do an update to it, and it's going to be next month sometime in September. So I hope you enjoy this video. I also hope you enjoy your day, night, evening, morning, dawn, dusk, or whatever it is where you live. And I will see you in the next one. Later.